Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm Andy Signor, and so happy to be with you. We're doing a little bit later show today because, guys, the news has been brutal today. We've just been scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find something, and I just don't want to just do it with nothing to talk about. And then suddenly, Kim, out of nowhere, boom, 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 we had like 2 new Ezra Miller exposés that dropped, and I was like, yes, it was meant to be. We are here, and we're going to break down this information, which is just crazy. In fact, I haven't read the full Variety piece. I want to read it with you guys because there's some really revealing stuff that is in there. It's the first time we're going to hear from the Icelandic victim, which I haven't even heard yet. I'm dying to see what this woman's going to say because that situation has always been strange to me, as well as Tokata Iron Eyes' family has opened up in an interview here that we'll read through The Independent, where it seems like, again, they're alleging that he's creating some sort of like cult-like behavior. Is he becoming a cult leader? We're going to break all this down and so much more, and I'm so happy to do it with my friend Kim. What's up? It's Kim.
What's up? I'm doing okay. I also just want to say credit to the articles as well should be also to Casey and to Steph, the Ultra Nerd. Both of you guys, thank you. Don't want to take all the credit.
Yeah, no,
you guys
bravo
found it as
to
well.
everybody who's been helping. We've been trying our best to figure out what the heck to talk about this week because I don't want to keep talking about that woman. Even though some of you do, we're trying to move on. So we're going to try and find some other topics to talk about. Open to suggestions. And I will have some stuff about that woman actually this weekend that I'm banking with some experts. So, yeah, it happens from time to time, but just the case in general, because there are some updates that I see brewing. So make sure you stay tuned. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for all alerts so you get notified because sometimes it's not always as the exact time that you want it to be. But we're here every day. We try our best. All right, but let's break this down. Thank you guys so much for being here and supporting and waiting and being patient. You guys are incredible. Go Planet! Go Planet! Also got my ... shirt because I'm thinking about all you. Sending all my dots out to you all. All right, Kim, shall we break this down? I think we should start with the Variety piece because it feels like this Variety piece really does sort of break things down. And I hate to just be reading the news with you, but you know what? This is one I want to react to as we read it together. So let's do this, shall we? Mm-hmm. All right. In the spring of 2020, as the Rona was raging, becoming a global pandemic, Ezra began wearing out their welcome in Iceland. The actor, best known for playing the DC superhero The Flash in several films from Warner Brothers, was set to film the studio's latest entry in the Harry Potter franchise, The Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, in London when the shoot was halted on March 15th due to the Rona. In London, when that happened, the weeks after, Miller, who identifies as non-binary and uses they/them pronouns, became a regular at bars in Iceland's capital, Reykjavik, where locals came to know and even befriend them. Many recognized Miller from the earliest breakout movies of The Perks of Being a Wallflower and We Need to Talk About Kevin, where they played a troubled teen who brought a bow and arrow to school and murdered his classmates. Miller also starred to show a different volatile side to their personality, one that began to concern Icelanders. There was always something with Ezra, said Carlos, then a bartender at this pub located in the heart of Reykjavik. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Reykjavik. I know.
Reykjavik.
Yeah. Reykjavik. I've been there in your airport. It was very nice. Rainier said that he intervened in 2 altercations involving Miller. The first was a heated argument between Miller and a male patron that began as banter, but ended in the actor pulling the man into a chokehold and later slapping him. He broke up the fight, says Miller, later apologized as the other patron quickly shrugged it off as a joke. The actor was allowed to continue frequenting the bar. We just brushed it off as 2 friends getting drunk and getting into a fight. It's Iceland. That happens twice a week. Wow, good. Usually more here in America, so they had less bar fights there. But the next altercation in which Miller did it to a young woman at the bar was harder to discount. The incident grabbed global headlines when footage of Miller placing the woman in that position and then pushing her to the ground went viral in early April 2020. Sorry, there we go. Soon after the incident, Variety spoke with the woman Miller did with. She recently confirmed that her comments could be printed for this article. She asked to remain anonymous out of concern for her privacy as she's telling her story publicly for the first time. What's interesting here is Variety spoke to her and then held onto the comments. Variety doesn't usually give a crap about, if you say something, they'll print it. To me, this, and again, I'm putting on my speculation warning, this screams like studio interference to me. This screams like, whoa, 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 don't you dare post anything about this story. We'll make this go away. We'll give you something else. It happens all the time in these trades. It's how they survive, is they're given scoops to avoid other scoops. And so I wonder if at this point, there's no more hiding it because Warner Brothers can't control it. Again, that's just my speculation here, but something's off about the fact that Variety spoke to her in 2020 and now for the first time is getting permission to print her comments. In the blurry video Miller is seen, we've seen this video, he confronts the woman who is smiling and waving her arms as she walks towards them, asking, do you want to fight? Is that what you do? Miller grabs her neck. She lets out an audible gasp. The person filming the video stopped to intervene. Variety has confirmed. According to 3 sources, the woman had been speaking to Miller at the bar prior to the quarrel. She said she inquired about the actor's feet, visible in flip-flops, after noticing some wounds, which Miller explained were battle scars from a fight. After discussing how they got them, she began to walk away but turned around and joked, but just so you know, I could take you in a fight. Miller replied, you really want to fight? And the woman told them to meet her in the smoking area in 2 minutes. Eventually, Miller confronted her outside the bar. I think it's just fun and games, but then it wasn't, she said. It's the sentiment echoed by another woman, Nadia. She requested that her first name only be used for privacy reasons, who alleges in an interview with Variety that after a warm 2-year friendship with Miller, mostly via text message, the actor came to her Berlin apartment late one evening in February 2022 at her invitation. They hadn't seen each other since they had had a consensual encounter, in 2020, but after a friendly interaction, Miller's mood sharply turned when she told them that they couldn't smoke inside her home. That just set them off, Nadia said. I asked them to leave about 20 times, maybe more. They started insulting me. I'm transphobic piece of S. I'm an N-A German N-word. I don't know how to say that correctly. I don't know. I can't say the German N-word seems like it's really inappropriate. So, hopefully you knew what I meant.
That not good thing.
And yes, it's another thing that from World War II. It became so stressful for me. They were going around my house looking at everything, touching everything, spreading tobacco leaves on the floor. It felt disgusting and very intrusive. Pausing just for a second. Yeah, I mean, this is literally the MO they've been doing since. We have video of them not being able to leave, wasn't leaving the bar, and then the woman had to forcibly push them out of the bar. After roughly a half hour of pleading, Nadia said she finally convinced Miller to leave once she called the police. The incident left her deeply disturbed. While she is clear that she never felt at risk of a, DV or SA that night in the apartment, she believed the actor could somehow do something physically. I totally felt unsafe. 5 people, 2 friends, a woman's right advocate, a German social worker, and Nadia's German lawyer told Variety that they spoke with Nadia soon after her alleged encounter with Miller and corroborated her account. In April, Nadia filed a criminal complaint about her experience, which Variety has confirmed with the German State Prosecutor's Office in Berlin. While the prosecutor who was investigating the charge of trespassing against Miller, their office says that it has discontinued its proceedings since the actor is no longer in Germany. Interesting. So another encounter we didn't even know about. Just over a month after her alleged encounter with Miller, Nadia saw news reports that the actor had been arrested half a world away in Hawaii for disorderly conduct and harassment. After another turbulent incident at the bar, in May, TMZ released body cam footage of them in Hawaii, in which the actor records much of the encounter for what they say was NFT crypto art. In the video, they also say a patron at the bar declared himself, again, that word, I can't even say the H person. I need a bad person.
You fixed it. You got it.
There you go. And accused the police officer of touching their genitals during the search. Nadia realized she wasn't alone in her experience with the actor. It seemed to be a pattern. They jet set abuse. That alleged pattern has only grown more alarming. After a second arrest in Hawaii in April, this time for second degree, after allegedly throwing a chair at a woman and leaving her with a cut on her forehead, the actor additionally has had 2 protection orders placed against them. The first, as reported by LA Times, was the parents of an 18-year-old from Standing Rock, reservation in North and South Dakota who claim Miller manipulated their daughter when she was between the ages of 12 and 18. The second was by parents of a current 12-year-old in Massachusetts that involves an incident that occurred just days before their alleged encounter with Nadia in Berlin. In a story about the later incident, the Daily Beast reported that Miller allegedly got into an aggressive confrontation with the Greenville, Mass. family over the mother's casual reference to her tribe, and Miller's claim that the board game Parcheesi operates Rastafarian culture. Oh my God, everything's offending him. Everything's a culture war with Ezra Miller. At one point, Miller allegedly revealed a L shape, and said to a family member, "Talking like that could get you in a really serious situation." In June, a Rolling Stone story alleged that Miller has been housing a mother and her 3 children in their Vermont farm amid unsafe living conditions with unsecured G's scattered around the expansive property. The mother told Rolling Stone that Miller had helped her escape a bad marriage. As for Miller's future as a movie star, it's unclear whether they will continue to perform as the Scarlet Speedster in future projects, but Warner Brothers is still committed to releasing its $200 million budgeted tentpole in theaters June 2023. According to sources with knowledge of the project, the film simply costs too much for the studio to scrap entirely, and reshooting with a new actor in Miller's role is similarly cost prohibitive, as I've said, because the actor is virtually in every scene. As I told you, everyone is like, they'll just reshoot it. You can't reshoot this movie. It's either coming out the way it is or it's being lost, and they're throwing $200 million in the garbage. What do you think Warner Brothers is going to do? What do you think they're going to do, Kim?
I don't know, because my whole thing is at this point, like, I feel like it would flop. You know, like it would just do terribly. And at that point, it's like, why would you even bother spending the money on marketing? Why would you bother doing any of that? You know? I mean, you think people won't go see Aquaman because of Amber. I'm sorry. This is really, really, really bad. Well, what we're thinking is possible. It's really, 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 really bad. And I don't think people are going to want to pay to see anything with them in it.
Kim, I want to see Michael Keaton's
Batman. I know,
but you know what I mean? Like, that's the problem. If they market around that, which they've already, and then there's an amazing Supergirl. That's like, there's a lot of other characters in this film that I think the marketing will just skirt this. They'll just show all the cool Michael Keaton, Supergirl, all the stuff that's in the movie that's not really, and then CGI flashing around. They won't lead with Ezra, and yeah, it's gonna be a Batman superhero movie that people, of course, will go see. So, I mean, right or wrong, I think it's more complicated than Aquaman, because you can just cut Amber's part out of Aquaman. Like, that is not a costly reshoot. From what I'm being told, it's just a hospital scene. Go reshoot it. It's more of an optics of, do they really want to cave, even though they've done it before? They should, but I don't think they will, in which case, if they're not going to do that, I don't know. This Variety article is not going to help matters. This Variety article is going to put a lot of pressure on Warner Brothers to respond. So we will see. Let's stay tuned. Anyway, all eyes are on Warner Brothers. However, film can't generate the revenue. The film likely can't generate the revenue needed to turn a profit without robust theatrical run. So putting the movie directly on HBO is also unlikely. All eyes are on Warner Brothers, however, as how it continues to navigate the choppy waters surrounding Miller. Studio already had to downplay the actor's involvement in Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, which opened in theaters in April. And let's not forget or forgive Warner Brothers. They removed Johnny, but not Ezra.
And that's the...
They removed Johnny. Ezra, yeah. I mean, they literally just removed somebody from that movie, and then they're like, but we're not going to remove this person. I honestly think, because Ezra is, and I say this because I think the community needs to be more vocal against Ezra, because they aren't speaking for the community. I've had actually a lot of people reach out in like the trans community, et cetera, like, no, we don't like this person. This person's not helping matters at all. But I do think there's a fear, because Ezra is clearly using that as a shield. He says it in multiple times in videos, and immediately, like, you hate me because I'm this, you hate me because... Dude, we hate you because you're acting like a crazy person. That's the reality. And the fact that they keep using that as a shield, of course I'll say it, of course the studio's afraid. The studio can't fire the non-binary, they, them pronoun actor. They'll get torched. So they think, but I think at this point, Ezra has created such a problem for themselves that now it's not really about that. Even as much as Ezra wants to make it about that, I think, thank God, if anything, Vito, here's Vito to join. If anything,
Hi, Vito.
Hello.
If anything, Vito, I feel like Ezra may finally be the case where it's like, you can't just keep using the pronouns as a shield to protect crazy. Do you think that's finally coming too?
I feel bad for the pronoun crowd because Ezra has made themselves the poster child. For bad behavior, and it makes their whole community look terrible. And you know, I know non-binary people who aren't running around causing trouble, kidnapping kids, and starting a cult. So it's a tragedy. And yes, I don't think this identity politics, as some people would call it, are going to act as any sort of shield. This behavior is just beyond the pale.
Yeah. I think once the kids are involved.
Yeah, well, it's a very weird situation. Warner Brothers has been trying to Warner Brothers has been trying to ignore the situation. They keep going, well, it hasn't gotten too bad yet. It hasn't gotten too bad yet. But it's all these little incidents keep adding up. They keep trying to ignore them, and I'm just worried that Ezra Miller becomes more emboldened to keep doing crazier and crazier things. I believe there was another bar fight the other day. There's no stopping this individual until they're forced to face some sort of accountability and consequences. And clearly being removed as the Flash, which I'm sure has been communicated to them at this point. I'm sure somebody has said, listen, Ezra, you're not the Flash anymore. Clearly it's not been enough of a consequence to change this individual's behavior.
No, but as I was saying, which is the frustration is, as it says here, they already were clearly downplaying their involvement in Fantastic Beasts, Dumbledore, which is the same movie they actually did remove Johnny Depp from, but not Ezra, which is just insanely frustrating to prove that they could have done it and they chose not to. Representatives for Miller had no comment. Of course, source close to the situation tells Variety that Miller hopes to address the allegations at some point, but they have chosen to privately focus on their health and healing over the coming months. Yikes, that is a studio-endorsed PR.
The studio said this? Who said
Miller's,
this?
A source is close to Miller.
A source close. So not even a representative from Miller, it's an anonymous source. See, that's what's driving me nuts is Miller. Look, if you want to say I'm having some sort of psychological problems and I need to take some time off, well, just say it. You haven't said anything. Hiding from the world. No comment from Miller, no comment from his or their official representatives, and no comment from Warner Brothers. It's just complete silence. So it's like watching a monster destroy the town and nobody will say anything except for the townspeople. This is crazy. Someone in a position of authority needs to address some of this.
When Miller started showing up at in Reykjavik, their unusual behavior was at first chalked up to the eccentric whims of a visiting celebrity. If they weren't lighting incense or candles or even bringing in their own Bluetooth speaker and playing it super loud to overpower our music, there was always something, the bartender said. We'd approach them and say, hey, do you mind? There are other people here. It was a bit of a chuckle. And then they would go, yeah, sure, and they'd stop, only to continue it a little bit later. The day that Miller did that, it's a woman in April 2020, her initial interactions with them felt at first to be similarly barbed yet easygoing. When she told Miller to meet her in the smoking area, she said she meant it as a joke, and it appeared that Miller took it as one when they remained inside. But then a friend of the woman approached Miller and told them that he'd heard the actor didn't want to fight. My friend didn't have to say that. The woman allowed. It was just a joke, obviously. But Miller took that literally and got super mad and came running outside. That's when one of the women's friends started recording. I think it's just fun and games, but then it wasn't, she said. All of a sudden, they're on top of me, choking me, still screaming in my face if I want to fight. My friend who's filming sees they're obviously not joking, and it's actually serious, so he stops filming, which is, I gotta say, was a actually good sign that this was real, because if it was staged, he probably would have kept filming. But if my friend's been, I'm as much as I want that viral video, you want to go protect your friend if something is wrong. So it's very telling that they stopped
Andy, if
filming.
I see you getting beat up by a celebrity, I'm just going to keep filming. I want to make you a payday. Let's put it that way.
That's
I'm fair. Like, kick his teeth in. We can make millions.
I'd like to think I would help instead of film, but yeah, I don't know. I know Vito probably would keep filming.
I'm
it was not
too
joking.
opportunist.
So then he actually stops filming, pushes them off me, and they're still trying to fight me. Two guys of mine are actually holding Miller back as they're screaming, "This is what you wanted. This is what you wanted." At the time of the interview, it was unclear whether the woman was aware that Miller identifies as non-binary. The woman said Miller spat in her friend's face multiple times, an affront that was dangerous in the early pre-vaccine days of the pandemic. I mean, that's really gross to know that at that point, that was deadly.
You don't want Ezra Miller to spit on you?
Variety in 2020 confirmed Miller's actions with her friend, who also wished to remain anonymous. Eventually, she said a bartender ran outside to break up the fight. Rayner had arrived early in for his shift that day and seen the woman in the smoking area with his friends and Miller. When he saw the situation going way out of hand, he decided to get involved. Miller grabs me by the throat as I'm trying to usher them out the back door and tells me they're not leaving. He added that Miller repeatedly claimed that the woman's friends had pushed them, which they didn't, the bartender said. They proceeded to spit in my face several times, so with the final push, I closed and locked the door. Look, this is the lead. I don't believe for a second Warner Brothers didn't know all this. They knew all of this.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
They let it happen. Because this is the first time we're getting this much detail, which they clearly tried to... tell Variety to shrug away, which is just Why is Variety reporting this now, and why didn't they report in 2020? Who protected Ezra in 2020? That's what I want to know, because they had this in 2020 and didn't tell us? Like, that is effed up. That is effed up. I can't even process, like, wait a second. And we've never seen this, Vito, correct? All this is new.
Well, we saw the video, but we didn't have her account of what exactly went down.
We didn't know he spit. We didn't know that he was screaming at her. We didn't know the bartender was then also attacked. I didn't know any of this.
Right.
And to tell me that Variety had this information in 2020, held on to it, I can only assume because the studio was like, yo, don't you dare release that. We're still looking into it.
To maintain their friendly relationship. They're all buddies at all these organizations, and they go, let's not get too crazy reporting about this, and it's a one-time thing. And that's kind of been the whole pattern, is saying, well, it's just a one-time thing. Ezra, I don't know, something went wrong. It was a miscommunication. Don't worry about it. But then Ezra just keeps doing more and more and more things, and at some point someone needs to say, okay, it's not a one-time thing. This is clearly a disturbed individual who needs, I think, psychiatric help. I don't know. Like, this is... If someone in a bar, you can tell from the way they're talking to you, they go, hey, yeah, what if we had a fight? You go, oh, okay, well, this is a young woman. She's joking. It's a bar. Ezra Miller thought he had to fight for his life against this young woman, and ends up fighting her in the snow. And she's like, no, I'm joking. We're joking. We're having a thing. This is just crazy.
Yeah, well, welcome, Steph, as well. Hey, Steph.
Hi, Steph. I think you're muted,
everyone.
There you
No, I put my mic thing down on my thingy, whatever.
No worries.
Anyways, sorry. Hey up, everyone. How's it all going? How's it all doing? And the madness of Ezra continues.
I'm just in shock. It's like to know that Warner Brothers and Variety held on to this information for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, disgusts me.
Yeah.
Like, disgusts me.
Yeah.
And also, we keep getting the people who go, why do you keep reporting on Ezra? This is going to stop at some point. He's done. It's like, no, they keep doing stuff. Or stuff that they've done in the past is now coming out because people are looking into it. There's more to this individual than people seem to want to admit.
But the thing is, Vito, is that in terms of the Ezra Miller situation, they can't say, oh, no, this is out of the blue, because there's been an absolute clear ramp up of this very disturbing and very, at least, dodgy behavior from Ezra, starting all the way back in like 2011, 2012, when they were pulled aside for having some of the green breed in the car, and then it's just kind of spiraled off from there. Now that this victim from Iceland starting to speak out, it makes me even more fearful now for Tokata's safety. It might be a conspiracy theory, whatever. Ezra Miller is not a safe individual to be around.
I don't think there's any conspiracy theory. And this has been a where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. Where there are these little incidents, he keeps fighting people in bars, he keeps getting drunk and causing trouble and getting arrested. And so many people have wanted to sweep it on the rug and go, well, that doesn't mean anything truly terrible is happening. And you go, well, Yeah, it very well could. Where there's smoke, there's fire. When a person is acting erratically and dangerous and getting into fights and putting themselves and others in harm's way, and you find out they're traveling around with a young girl who they've convinced to drop out of college and they're getting them drunk and giving them drugs, we have to assume the worst. This is a dangerous situation for everyone involved, including Ezra. Like, I'm also worried for Ezra's safety. I think Ezra's nuts in the head. But this is an individual who, based on their behavior, I don't know, Ezra could pick a fight with the wrong person, and next thing you know, you're getting your head knocked off.
Yeah.
This could go very badly in any number of ways, and I don't know why there's no one around to try and protect Ezra or the people that they are harming.
I want to, because we got a lot more to go through it, but we'll talk at the end of this. But no, it's all good points. But I was stopped because I'm still in shock that there was this much more. That the bartender was an attack. There was spitting right in the beginning of COVID. Like that's not cool. They proceeded to do that. So then the bartender ran to lock the tavern's front entrance, where Miller, who had run along the perimeter of the building, was banging on the door and screaming to be let in. Eventually, the actor was ushered into a car by two local friends and driven away. Variety has corroborated the account with 3 other sources, including management at the bar. So this isn't just like some hearsay. Like, Variety's clearly done. Try to give them benefit of the doubt here. They've really made sure that this piece has all the. Maybe they're afraid, Vito, that Warner Brothers is like, you can't post this. But then they had to really go back, hold on, and get more witnesses and more to confirm it because they're going against the studio system. I don't know here, but I'm sort of in shock that it's taken so long for Variety to finally expose this. Woman reported that the incident to the police. The woman did report the incident to police. The report was confirmed by Variety, but didn't press charges. Rayner was allowed to finish work early and took a PCR test the next morning, which came back negative. I do believe the incident at the bar was what ruined Miller's reputation thoroughly in Iceland. They stopped coming to other bars shortly after that. The bartender who left the bar recently, now works at a Chinese restaurant, was struck by how quickly Miller turned against the local community, leaving a trail of destruction in their path. I thought they were great to begin with. We talked about all kinds of spiritual things and went into deep philosophy. They had this wonderful mask on as this total sweetheart with a completely open mind who's ready to help and talk to anyone. But as soon as someone does something they don't agree with or doesn't like, it's their fault, not Ezra's. The day the video of the choking went viral, Nadia saw it on her Twitter feed. She called them immediately. Ezra was in Iceland in a car with a friend, Nadia said. I could hear the friend, or maybe friends, I don't know, laughing, and Ezra was in a very good mood. Ezra was like, don't worry, it's just a misunderstanding. It's nothing. Nothing happened. At the time, Nadia had known Miller for just a few months, but she felt she had no reason to doubt them. In the video, it's true the girl is smiling, so I thought, okay, I guess it was taken into context, and they were playing around. I just let it go. Which is what everybody did. They played it off like, oh, it was no big deal. But now knowing the details, it was way more of a big deal. Nadia met Miller in January 20 at an art opening. She was visiting from Germany when Miller approached her and a friend outside and struck up conversation while she works in the music world. Nadia was unfamiliar with Miller's career and didn't recognize them. They said they were a performer. My friend kept saying, it's Ezra Miller. And I kept asking my friend, who's Ezra Miller? She liked that Miller was interested in discussing society and spiritual things rather than talking about the film industry or pop culture. It was refreshing. She says as she was leaving the opening, Nadia asked Miller to exchange numbers. About 5 minutes in the car ride back to her hotel, Nadia said she started receiving pretty adult X-rated text messages from Miller suggesting that the two hook up, which, by the way, was totally fine. There was nothing about it. I'm just not into texting like this. I told them to stop, and they stopped on the spot. Okay. The two kept texting, and on Miller's last night in LA, they spent the entire night together. They were super caring, super nice. I had no reason to suspect anything bad was ever going to happen with them. Nadia said she could not share the text with Variety out of concern it would violate German privacy laws. Over the next 2 years, Nadia said she and Miller continued to text each other, but every attempt to meet again in person was thwarted either by their scheduling, the pandemic, or both. After plans to spend Christmas together in London were foiled when Nadia's flight was canceled 3 times, she began to worry about the strength of their connection with Miller. They'd been super nice to me. I didn't feel good to not show up and not refuse the invitations. I thought maybe I'd lost a friend because we missed each other so many times. So with the Berlini approach, Berlinale. What is that?
It's an annual film festival in Berlin, in Germany.
Thank you. I was like, what? So with the Berlinale approaching in February, she invited Miller to visit her should they be in the city for the festival. The actor had recently wrapped The Flash and Secrets of Dumbledore, wasn't opening for another 2 months, so they had nothing to promote in Berlin. But one night during the festival, Nadia got a text from the actor at nearly 4 a.m. I received a message like, hey, I've arrived in Berlin, but I might have to go tomorrow. Miller hadn't lined up hotels, she said, so with the city shut down amid the Omicron surge and the weather near freezing, she invited Miller to her apartment. Ooh, this is sketchy. When they arrived, they were super nice, super polite, asking me if they could come in. When I said my house is shoes off, they had no problem taking their shoes off. They talked, she gave them tea, vegetable soup. Then Miller began to roll a cigarette. I was like, yeah, you need to smoke this outside or on the balcony. There's no smoking in my house. Miller kept rolling their cigarette. Nadia insisted they smoke outside. Instantly, their demeanor changed. And this, I'm quoting word for word, she said, they started with, I'm a maker of planets. Tobacco is sacred.
Well, there you go. I mean, I can't argue with that logic.
I'm sorry.
Ezra
I don't believe she made that up, Vito. I don't believe she made that up.
The cute, fun, artistic wackiness eventually devolves into madness, and that's where we're at. This guy is smoking too much of the wacky tobacco, and
that's one of those lines, Vito, that you remember. I totally buy that. You're like, oh, I remember exactly what he said. They said, yeah. I'm a maker of planets. Tobacco is sacred.
How would you
not going to forget that one? Yeah, no, that's a burned into the memory there of what just happened.
Miller continued on a tirade. She said that they could do whatever they want, whenever they want, basically. When Nadia stood up to insist that guests should honor their host's house rules, they looked at me with this really mean, stern face and told me, sit down, like they were ordering a dog. Nadia told Miller as much.
Wow.
Their reply, she said, was, yes, I'm talking to you like a dog. I said, okay, if you talk to me like this, it's time for you to go. But Miller didn't. Instead, they escalated, accusing Nadia of being transphobic and a German World War II villain.
Yahtzee with an N.
A Yahtzee, an N Yahtzee. I asked them if they remember. I told them I'm a descendant of the Holocaust survivors, so why would they say that to me? They answered, screaming at me, yes, but how many people of my family died? Because many people in their family died. I was like, oh, okay, this is a game of who's got the most trauma. So Nadia disengaged. The only thing I said to them was, leave my house, go away, leave, can you leave now? She said, like a broken record. Miller persisted, stalking her apartment. Now, it's weird. It's like, this all reads, Vito, everybody. Welcome, Lewis. This is what he's been doing. This is what they've been doing at every sort of bar and place that they're showing up to. I told them I was calling the police because they were refusing to leave. And while I was calling the police, Ezra was calling the police or pretending to call the police. I don't know. Miller entered Nadia's bedroom in which she told them to leave. They started to shout that they were a R survivor and I was triggering them. She said they started to say I had essayed
not
them.
Being
I had
physically
beat them
nice
up.
to him.
I had hurt them. Oh my God! What?
Wait, they said
monster.
that to the police, or
to
they're
the
just,
woman.
no, they're just yelling this
they
at
is
the
saying,
woman.
That's why the they is problem. I'll try to say Ezra. Ezra's saying this to the woman, to Nadia.
Saying, I'm a survivor and you're assaulting me by
Correct.
telling me to not smoke tobacco in your apartment.
Because tobacco is sacred and I'm a maker of worlds.
Ezra is an individual who, from a very young age, was never told no. Who did not learn anything about other people's boundaries, which we are allowed to have. And thinks that they can do anything they want and any imposition on them is a form of assault. And I don't know. And again, triggered with all the drug use and whatever else, now thinks that they're a god who makes the world and whatever.
Maker of worlds.
Maker of planets.
Planets.
This person needs to sit down with a therapist and talk to them for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Finally, Nadia was able to block Miller near the entrance to her apartment with her body and said out loud she was surprised the police hadn't arrived. Miller finally gathered their things and left. Nadia called the police to tell Ezra not to bother coming, because put her cell phone and door buzzer on silent and set about cleaning her apartment. I thought it was over, but it was not. About 30 minutes later, nearly 6 a.m., Nadia heard a loud banging noise at the front door of her apartment. When she looked outside, she could see Miller at the door, seemingly attempting to break it down, and said they were screaming that Nadia had stolen their passport and money. She then discovered Miller had left behind a second jacket in her apartment, which did contain Miller's passport and credit card. She threw down the jacket to Miller from her balcony and went back inside. At that point, Nadia realized Miller had texted her just minutes earlier, but she said she didn't see the text until days later. When she reviewed them with a social worker, the social worker confirmed seeing this text with Nadia. It was an alarming exclamation point on what had already been a frightening experience. I did not feel safe, Nadia said. All 5 sources who corroborated Nadia's account with Variety said they spoke with her very soon after, in one case the day after her alleged encounter with Miller. Only Nadia's lawyer could recall Nadia telling him that Miller had declared they were a maker of planets and that tobacco is sacred. All the sources were deeply troubled by what Nadia related to them about her alleged experience. I was worried, said one of Nadia's friends. I think she was misled. She had a memory of them from when they had time in LA, but what she got in Berlin was a really different, and it sounded dangerous. Nadia said she had not seen Miller since that night, and she's blocked their number on her phone, but she was deeply shaken. One of the reasons I did not feel safe is after they left, I Googled Ezra to see maybe something's going on with them, and I saw a report in the press that they had began death threats to the Triple K members via Instagram. Which he did for the Bougainville chapter of the North Carolina Triple K. Look, if y'all want to die, I suggest you just do it to yourselves. Quote, He continued. The actor has since deactivated that Instagram account. Otherwise, keep doing what you're doing. We watched that video. It's a bizarre video. Miller had repeatedly called Nadia a Yahtzee with an N in her home. They knew where she lived, and they had tried to break down her apartment door. What was to stop them from posting about her? And then I have fans at my door wanting to beat me up. After speaking with the social worker about her options, Nadia realized that a way to defend against any reprisal was to share experience with a journalist. She reached out to a women's rights advocate who sought guidance on how to proceed. That source, who also corroborated Nadia's account, put her in touch with Variety. For the Icelandic bartender, Raynor, the international attention following Miller's behavior in 2020 rocked his city, which, despite being accustomed to Hollywood actors, booming production, is less familiar with the global appeal of celebrity drama. The incident brought him close to the others involved, but thanks to an Icelandic upbringing, were rather quick at letting things go. He saw Miller once more just after the incident with the woman. Both Raynor and his former manager said the actor came to the bar with the gift of a stuffed toy elephant intended as a peace offering, and still kicking around somewhere in the bar. They haven't seen Miller since. Okay, interesting. So they came and paid that woman off, it seems.
With a stuffed toy elephant.
I wonder if there was more involved in that conversation. 2 years later, however, following the new string of headlines about Miller, the actor is once again the conversation. And to this day, if I see Ezra Miller, I'll look the other way and keep walking, but I still wish them the best. I don't want this to be their life, the bartender said. I want them to stop going through the celebrity craziness that they're going through and be happy. Even though they did all this to me and my friends, they're still a person that deserves good things, but not if they continue acting the way they have. You get what you give. Nadia is less forgiving, but also a bit less concerned about any reprisal from the actor since they're facing so many other allegations and battles. They're probably not thinking about me anymore because I'm just one of many people that they've hurt. Yeah, I mean, so what do you think about this Nadia story? She's like, well, I reached out to a social worker who helped me find Variety to figure out how to even tell this story. It seems credible. Vito, I'll go to you first. Do you think you believe this Nadia story?
Yes, absolutely. This is all in line with the erratic behavior we've been seeing from Ezra Miller. And it just points to the fact that I don't know, when is this? He was in Iceland, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So Warner Brothers has known this entire time that this is a damaged, dangerous, unstable individual, and have just done nothing for this person. Why has no one gotten Ezra Miller any sort of help? Now, I know there's reports that they've refused psychiatric help, but I don't know. There's got to be something to do other than rewarding them with more movie work and basically convincing them everything is, fine and dandy. You got to go to Ezra and go, you can't be acting like this and be a movie star. Something is terribly wrong. You're scaring people. You're pushing friends away. You're getting in bar fights. And I don't know why Warner Brothers and the people around Ezra haven't.
I'm a maker of planets, Vito.
For as long, I know this is that's honestly, and I get people who tell me they're like, don't armchair diagnose Ezra Miller, but it sounds like mental illness. How could it not? When a person's telling you, I'm a maker of planets, all of God's children live inside of me, and tobacco is my magic channel to the spirit realm, or whatever the hell they're saying. This is insanity, delusions of grandeur. And then trying to pull other people into it. We have reports where he keeps, going to people and telling them, come live on my farm and we're going to form a magic community or whatever else. This person should be forming no community, should be acting as no sort of spiritual guide for anyone. This seems like a desperately sick individual in need of mental health care. And I am disturbed at the people around them for not finding any way to make that happen, and basically giving their behavior a pass.
Parents of Tokata have spoken out, and I want to get through this too, because this is a really damning piece where we finally get to hear from the parents. Because like I have the question of like, why'd you let this happen? Like, how do you not police this better? They do seem to address that in this piece. So let's go through some of this. As an indigenous girl, I grew up knowing that I'm the backbone of my people. A 15-year-old Tokata told a crowded several thousand people at the Women's March in 2019 in D.C. Free-spirited young indigenous activists have been launched onto the national stage with the likes of Angelina Jolie and Greta Thunberg feting her, like applauding her. Tokata uses pronouns she, they, has become an unrecognizable shell of their former self since falling under the influence of Ezra Miller. Parents Chase Iron Eyes and Sara Jumping Eagle told The Independent. They fear they are in a race against time to save their child from the psychopathic, narcissistic actor's grip. Mr. Iron Eyes this month lodged an order of protection against Miller on behalf of Tokata through the Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Court. He accuses Miller, 29, in court documents of grooming Tokata from the age of 12 and plying themselves with psychedelic drugs, including LSD, ketamine, cannabis, and alcohol for years. My family is living a nightmare, says Miss Jumping Eagle. They have been granted an interim court order that asks Miller to cease contact with their family, including Tokata, and not come within 100 yards of the Iron Eyes residence, but their efforts to enforce the order have been unsuccessful. Miller, who owns a sprawling farm in Vermont and travels frequently to California, evades being served. A full hearing is scheduled for July 12th. The Flash actor has been linked to a series of disturbing incidents involving firearms, drugs, and allegations of violence in recent months. Today, Tokata's parents say Miller exerts a cult-like psychological control over them through the use of illegal drugs. Speaking from his home in North Dakota, Iron Eyes, a prominent indigenous rights lawyer, told The Independent he's worried the court judgment may not come soon enough. They're on a downward spiral right now. I've seen this type of train wreck before. I know where it ends. Miller first met Iron Eyes in 2016 when visiting the Standing Rock Reservation during protests. The protests originated from a youth-led movement that Tokata was heavily involved in and quickly spiraled into an international call to arms for drinking water. After a speech Tokata gave, the pipeline protests went viral. She was introduced to Greta Thunberg, invited to renowned climate activists, and to the Dakotas to campaign against the pipeline. Tokata's stature as an activist has continued to grow since then. In 2021, she was interviewed by Jolie for her book, Know Your Rights and Claim Them. Mr. Iron Eyes said, and it was around the time that Miller was first introduced to them by trusted community members. We thought Ezra had good intentions, but we were groomed too. We were made to trust this guy. Court filing first obtained by TMZ, Mr. Iron Eyes says Miller flew Tokata to London in 2017 to visit the studio where Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was being filmed. Tokata was 14 and Miller was 25 at the time of the trip. Miller continued to visit the family home and befriended other members of the tribe. 2019, Mr. Iron Eyes says Miller turned up unannounced at the family home and claimed that Tokata was depressed and should transfer from Red Cloud Indian School to South Dakota to Simon's Rock, an accelerated private school in Massachusetts affiliated with Bard College for their junior year. Mr. Iron Eyes says Miller implied he would cover the $60,000 a year tuition fees. He used that to create a sense of psychological indebtedness. Tokata dropped out of Simon Rock the last year to spend more time at Miller's Vermont farm, where they would consume large quantities of drugs with groups of the actor's confidants and band members. Mr. Iron Eyes claims in an interview that at the height of the lockdown, Mr. Iron Eyes says Miller showed up again at their property and announced he wanted to take Tokata on a cross-country road trip. We didn't let Tokata go on that trip, but to have the audacity to tell Tokata that his feelings were hurt because we said no, all of these instances point to a strange and inappropriate relation with a minor. Mr. Iron Eyes says he was later told by Tokata that she was with Miller and under the influence of LSD when the actor was releasing that video threat to the whatever, the Triple K group on Instagram. In that clip, Miller tells the members, we read that, Mr. Iron Eyes told The Independent that Miller loaded weapons and drove to North Carolina with Tokata to confront the Triple K. Jesus. He said that trip was an example of Miller subjecting Tokata to high-tension situations while their consciousness was altered on psychedelic drugs in order to assert control over Tokata. Miller also took Tokata to New Orleans in January, where they participated in a voodoo ritual, according to Mr. Iron Eyes. The tipping point came when the parents traveled to Miller's farm on 30th to see Tokata. Our life was turned upside down, he told The Independent, stating that their child was in a drug-induced psychosis. We picked up Tokata up from Ezra's farm. We were not sure that she would ever be able to function psychologically, mentally, or intellectually at the level she'd exhibited before coming into Ezra's clutches. Tokata had suffered dramatic weight loss and their voice and mannerisms had changed. Tokata told them bruises on their body had been allegedly caused by Ezra. They took Tokata home and tried to detox them in a Lakota sweat lodge ceremony. Soon afterwards, Tokata told the parents she wanted a new driver's license, ID, bank card, and phone. Tokata said they were going to stay with a friend in Brooklyn to focus on art, music, and give space for time and healing. The parents, as per their full account on Last Real Indians, believed the plan was a ruse set up by Miller, who reunited with Tokata in New York soon afterwards. Since then, the pair have been traveling together from Vermont to LA and Hawaii. They were seen together at a club in Hawaii where Miller was later arrested for disorderly conduct and pled no contest. Miller was also accused of throwing a chair. The parents heard Miller was in LA and flew out there on the 29th. Miss Jumping Eagle says they confronted Miller and Tokata in a street and then they ran off. Miss Jumping Eagle said she eventually caught up with them and claimed that she was trying to convince Tokata to get out of the car and come home. Miller slammed the door on her arms. The police eventually turned up, but Ezra and Tokata had already gone. In a series of recent Instagram posts, Tokata had refuted the parents' claims and accused them of ABUSC. Tokata now identifies as non-binary and calls themselves Gibson. They said recently that Miller has provided loving support and invaluable protection as she's been grieving the loss of a close friend. Tokata's parents say that their child is previously identified as non-binary, queer, gay, but after spending so much time with Miller, she has come out as transgender. Miller also identifies as transgender, non-binary, and uses the pronouns they, them. They first learned that Tokata was using the name Gibson when she had used it as a nickname for pets and friend as a child through a Rolling Stone article. Miller and others have tried to portray them as transphobic, but Mr. Iron Eyes insists they don't care what Tokata wants to be called or how she wants to identify, saying they had raised two other non-binary people who they gave complete autonomy. He told Independent that he believes Miller is gaslighting the gay transgender community in order to hook up with young women. Someone from the LGBTQ world needs to take a hard look at what kind of impact Ezra Miller is having on that community, because Ezra seems to be using that protective class designation as a shield to get close to young people to create a sense of trauma bonding. My God, that is the most true thing I think I've read yet. The music and the film industries are also needed to be held accountable for enabling Miller's behavior. Miller is set to star in the 2000 superhero blockbuster The Flash, which has been slated for release this summer but postponed to 2023. Mr. Iron Eyes says the efforts to speak to film executives about the actor's abhorrent behavior had come to nothing. The family had been trying to pressure the film studio into acting via social media campaign with the hashtag #TrashTheFlash. Part of the frustration is that in the industry, these people that saw things happening but just kept the work going, and people have enabled Ezra to continue with what they're doing. When we hold someone accountable despite their celebrity status, when will we hold someone accountable despite their celebrity status? Someone who is a danger to themselves and others is being allowed to continue as is. According to Deadline, Warner Brothers is still debating, and neither Warner Brothers nor Miller would respond to requests for comment. Despairing Miss Jumping Eagle shared a message to Tokata. Tokata, we love you. I love you. Everything we are doing is because we love you and we are trying to save your life. I listen to the songs you used to sing for me and cry. I miss you. Your family and friends miss you. Oh, Jesus. This 1-2 punch of publicity, we'll see if people jump on it and report on it. But my God, this is brutal. This stuff is brutal, and it's hard to not take this as serious. And I don't know how Warner Brothers now can continue to ignore this issue. They will. And the media probably will do nothing. But yeah, I'll go around the panel real quick. Kim, I'll go to you first. You seem distraught. What are your thoughts when you hear all this?
I have many. There's one thing that I believe the father said, or was one of the parents just said that, I have to watch my words carefully. People who do not nice things, ABUSERs, condition everyone around them. And I think that is, that statement is so incredibly true, and I think it's something we all forget about. They were under the spell the same way that, the people that Ezra has preyed upon, allegedly, were, and it's so difficult, but I think that's something that we need to remember, is that Ezra seems to be a very charming individual when they so choose to be. And a lot of what I think we're hearing, in my humble opinion, sounds like psychosis of their behavior. They obviously need a lot of help, but there is no mental illness in the world that justifies hurting another person. And as far as DC goes, I know that fans have wanted this film for a long time, but I honestly think that you all deserve better than this. You deserve a better person in this role. You deserve better. We all do. And I just hope we find them quickly, because I really am scared of where this is going. I said it before, I think it might have been last week, that I feel like I'm watching the beginning of like a true crime special on TV, where they're going through the beginnings of it. And it's just like, this is scary. So scary.
What an amazing show. We had so many people drop by. Kim, Steph, Lewis, Pascal, Vito, the whole crew came on by, and we talked about so many amazing things, including Jeff Bezos taking over Space Mountain. What the heck? You're going to want to watch the full replay if you missed it. So hit that join button, pick a tier, join the Planeteers, and help support the platform and what we do. Appreciate you guys so much. If you can't do the subscribe, the join, at least do the subscribe is what I'm trying to say. It's been 3 hours. I'm getting tired. Hit the bell though. Smash the like and leave a comment to not miss any of the zaniness. Make sure you also go support It's Kim and Steph the Alternate and everybody else. And Nerd Report is where we're sending you next. If it doesn't work, just look them up or click on one of these if I remember to put the end card in. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy your day and enjoy your 4th of July weekend if I don't see you tomorrow.